had to sum this all up, don't dumb yourself down for nobody. Live your life and live it full throttle. Be you. Elevate, grow, invest in yourself. By the time you get to your late 20s, early 30s, you'll feel like great about it. Don't let society's standards of saying you have to be married, you have to have a kid by this time, you have to, do all these things. You know what's true to you. You know the conversations that you have with God. You know the desires that God put in your heart. So I would say at the end of the day, do that. Forget what society says. Kids don't determine it. Live your life out for you. Don't slow down for nobody. If you have and you feel like you have greatness inside of you, don't dumb yourself down for other people around you. When I was 20 years old and now I'm 34, there are certain things that I didn't do or I didn't make a priority or I felt guilty, and I'll get into all that. So number one is, and this is a big one, and this is also based on my advice I would be giving to myself in my 20s, is decenter men from your life as early as possible. I didn't necessarily center men in my life, but if there was a man in my life that gave interest and I was interested, I would put a lot of stuff to the side. So I will allow them to stress me out. And as you get older, you realize men are gonna do what they're gonna do. Like, at the end of the day, whatever might happen with that man, if you did what you're supposed to do for yourself, you would never regret. Still giving what you would want to in the relationship, but also doing what you need to for yourself. Because another thing that I would do is I would feel guilty, I would feel bad, I would feel like I needed to slow down because I was moving too fast for a man that was interested in me. So for example, me maybe feeling like I don't want to say felt like I was too ambitious, but me like going full throttle at my goals and things like that, and then feeling guilty because I want to go on 5 trips this year. He's not in a position to go on as many trips as me, but it's like at the end of the day, if he can't keep up with me, I remember I heard a sermon one time, if he can't keep up with you, he's not for you, or this is just not the time for you. Never slow yourself down to appease yourself to a man. The right man it will not bother him. It'll motivate him to be better, right? Or it'll just fall off naturally. So that's what I mean by like decentering men from your life in that way. And that was like a mistake I made for a very long time, because I mean, not intentionally dumb myself down, but like I would slow down because I felt like a man couldn't keep up with the things that I had in my head that I was bringing to fruition and things like that. So that's like number one. I had to write my points down because my ass was going to forget. The quicker, the better. And then the thing is, like, whatever's going to happen with that man is going to happen with that man. If it's the right man, he's going to be there. You understand? Like, so you never have to worry about like if he was for you or not, because if he's for you, trust me, he will be there. The next one, number 2, is try as many things as possible. A lot of times you don't know what you really love until you really try. And it may be like, let's say, for example, I love real estate, but there were like different aspects of real estate I had to try to know which one I enjoyed the most. So for example, there's like a real estate agent side, then there's like an investing side. There's different aspects to every industry. So if you know that you love a particular industry, maybe try different aspects out in that industry, explore and things like that in order to, be able to like find your footing. Because then once you get that, like once you really realize what that is, like you would have been able to finally be there by the time you get into your late 20s, early 30s, and then like full throttle within that space. So that's definitely something I would say. Don't be afraid. This is your time to, and even if you're in your 30s and you're watching this, like this is still, for me, I mean, I'm like a forever evolving person, as we all are. So it's like, I continuously want to learn different things in different ways. But, sometimes we feel, I don't know the word. I feel like in your 20s is like the perfect time to do it. Because now I'm just speaking from where I'm at now, me doing those things in my 20s, I feel better about knowing more what I want in my 30s, right? So now I'm living more intentionally in my 30s is what I will say. There's things that I wish I would have tried more of in my 20s, right? That I didn't do. And, I'm still happy on where I'm at. I'm not going to sit here and say I'm not. I feel like if I tried more things, I don't know, I would have been more bold when it came to making, other decisions for myself. So I hope that makes sense. So building great relationships with women that you respect and admire. I feel like my mom always says, you need to have a few, you don't need a lot, you need a few great women in your life, friendships, especially like peers, because the thing is like when you're going through life is gonna life regardless. You just want to make sure that you have a good support system. And, Like I said, I don't know if I sound like I'm like bitter or whatever. I'm not. Like, I believe in love, but I feel like, yes, men have disappointed me, but like great friends have not. When I've been through my hardship, the men I was married before, men have disappointed me. Granted, obviously that was not the right man. The right man will not, obviously, so be optimistic in that sense. But having great girlfriends allows you to have like stability, consistency in your life when it comes to a positive relationship. And I know a lot of times I see women in comments on TikTok and things like that that say, they don't have women in their lives or they can't find a woman friend. Sometimes maybe you have to look within to see, what's going on with you, and also the caliber of woman that you're having around you is what I will say. I think because I've always been able to say, what type of friend am I? I've been able to have great friendships because I want to make sure I'm reciprocating the energy. But if I'm getting bad energy, I'm not going to give, good energy. And that's not my friend. That's not my person. So I hope that makes sense. Having a great relationship with women, a few great women that you admire and respect is going to keep you on your toes. It's going to allow you to be true to yourself, and women that could be honest with you as well. That's a major one for sure. Number 4 is going to be have a plan for yourself and where you want to be in like 5 to 10 years. And when I say plan for yourself, it could be lifestyle. We can only control what we can control. And I think early 20s, I didn't realize this. We can only control what we can control. Times will come and you'll be frustrated. I want us to be in a relationship by this time. Things don't always work out the way we want to, but what we do have control of is, ourselves and how we present ourselves in the world how we show up for ourselves. I think that's so important. So I think, like, if, for example, if you're like, I want to be able to work a part-time job and do what I want in my own free time by the time I'm 35. So in 10 years, you're 25. Then what are you doing and what's your plan to get there? Of course you can have the goal, and I believe in obviously prayer, manifestation, and understanding what you want. Like if you want to be married, you want these things, obviously be open to those things and have the plan for yourself. But you can't say I'm going to be married by 35, because what if you meet your person by 35? You know what I'm saying? So all you can say is I want to be in a healthy, supporting relationship and in a marriage. And when that marriage comes, what it looks like, because that's the standard you set for the relationship, not the age standard. So I hope that makes sense, because I remember saying I want to be married by a certain time. I want to have kids, and I wasn't gun-ho on it. So I've never pushed, a relationship and I need to get married by this time. I need to know. But, and I think that's why, just a little thing, I think that's why I've been able to walk away from a marriage that wasn't for me, because it was not meeting my standards. But if we're being honest, it wasn't meeting my standards before we got married, but that's a whole different conversation. But it wasn't meeting my standards. But if I kept saying, if I was so reluctant on I want to be married, marriage is, it's a covenant, it's a relationship. And so I think, moving forward, what I will say is I'm looking for a relationship with a man that fulfills my needs and I fulfill their needs, but I can also do that for myself within that relationship. And somebody that's supportive, somebody that can love me unconditionally, somebody that brings me peace and joy and, fun, but somebody that we can also build and have a family with. And obviously there's so much more to that, but I'm not looking for, I want a husband or I want a man that's da-da-da-da-da, all these things, or I got to be married by this time. So I hope that makes sense. So yeah, set your goals. If the lifestyle is this, then you know that your goals are reflecting this. And I think there's one more. The last one is taking inventory, especially with finances. Me personally, I did not grow up knowing much about finances. I've said that a few times. So things I've been learning, I've literally had to sit myself down and say, I want to learn this. I want to be able to understand certain things. What I would say is take inventory. Are you meeting your goals? Is your money increasing every year? If your money is increasing every year, are your profits increasing every year? Are your expenses going down? How are you managing your finances in a way that feels progressive, that feels as you get older, it's becoming better? Because then I think if you don't take inventory on those things, or how are you making better investments? If you're not taking inventory on those things, you're kind of just getting into a habit that you're making it, but let's say you never know, is it going towards your lifestyle goals, different things like that. So I hope that makes sense. So this is everything. If I was to sit and say 20-year-old Georgia, This is literally everything that I would sit and talk to myself about. I will say, as like, you know, big sis, auntie, I have a niece that's like early 20s. Literally, these are the things that I sit down and I try to talk to her about. Obviously, she's gonna do what she wants to do. Everybody, we all have our own free will. That's the main things. Finances, decentralizing, man. Really live your life out for you. Don't slow down for nobody. If you have and you feel like you have greatness inside of you, don't dumb yourself down for other people around you. And also, that also comes with females too, because if there's that's a whole different conversation. But if there's a woman around you that you feel like is not, I don't want to say supporting you, but you know when you feel envy, because I've definitely felt it. And I tried to push it aside and ignore it. But like when I got to my 30s, I couldn't have that person around me anymore. Because I felt the energy with it. You understand? And you don't need anybody around you like that. So that comes when it comes to women, when it comes to men. You want people who support you 100%. And also you will realize the people that you inspire by just doing you, being you, living your truth. Like, there's so many people that will be like, wow, like you're doing your thing. You know, they're pushing harder because they see what you're doing. So I've definitely seen that as well. So you'll know what you're doing as you're doing it, but don't dumb yourself down. I think that's like the ultimate. If I had to sum this all up, don't dumb yourself down for nobody. Live your life and live it full throttle. You know, of course, be safe. Think about your future and what you want, right? Like, I'm not saying wild out, but what I'm saying is be you. Elevate, grow, invest in yourself. That's like a big one. Invest in yourself. And by the time you get to your late 20s, early 30s, you know, then like you'll feel like great about it. And it's not to say I didn't feel great about it because I didn't do everything, because I obviously did some of the things I told you about. But like, don't let society's standards of saying you have to be married, you have to have a kid by this time, you have to, you know, do all these things. You know what's true to you. You know the conversations that you have with God. You know the desires that God put in your heart. So I would say at the end of the day, do that. Forget what society says. Kids don't determine that. And I want kids. I'm going to have kids. I'm going to be married. I believe those things. Those are desires that God put in my heart. So when the time comes, the time comes. At the end of the day, as long as I was focusing on myself and what I'm supposed to be doing for me, then when that part of my life or that season of my life starts, then it'll, you know, everybody will enjoy the labors of it all. My children and my husband and vice versa. One more thing I want to add is anything that you feel like you don't know, you don't have the answer to, you can find the answer. I used to work at a health insurance company for a few years, and the biggest lesson that they taught me was, it's not that you need to know the answer to everything, you need to know where to go find the answer. So for example, if you want to better your finances, you want to, even for me, right? Example is, I felt like I kept failing relationships. Granted, I would leave the relationships, but failing in the sense of like, I didn't have a successful long-term relationship. I mean, you know, that resulted in like a healthy marriage, or right? Okay. So I started thinking, well, you know what? Nobody ever educated me on how to properly date, how to properly vet a man, how to properly ask the right questions. I was kind of just coasting it. So I think it got to a place where I'm like, you know, I educated myself on bettering my finances, on real estate. And when I say educate myself, meaning like I looked up videos and found what was true for me, looked into further research, validated those ideas or those, you know, thoughts or whatever the case might be, and went according to that, right? And then kind of adopted those ideas. So when I say like the relationship aspect, I mean, nobody ever sat there and taught me. So I found somebody, a mentor, quote unquote. It was online, R.C. Blake's. He's a pastor. I hope this video means so much to you guys. I hope you guys really take something from this. It's my hope. That's my hope for this. If you have any questions, I would love to answer all of your questions down below. Don't be afraid to ask me. Let's say, what's one thing by the time you're 30 or in the next 5 years that you will have accomplished? Because we're speaking into existence. You will have done it, and we're going to speak like that. So tell me one thing down below that you will have accomplished in the next 5 years or by the time you're 30, either or. And let's discuss down below. I believe in you guys. I love you guys. Let's level up. My channel motto is leveling up with a side of vibes. So we're going to do all of the above, and we're going to have vibes all along. I love you guys, and I'll talk to you guys later. Take care. Bye.